Last night, the Justice Department released the missing interviews with the woman who made those claims against Donald Trump. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman here on Substack. Thanks for your support. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And if you are a subscriber, consider upgrading. We're going to do our first Q&A session live pretty soon. That'll be forthcoming. But in the meantime, let's talk about those files. Remember, I did a video on the allegations made by a then 13-year-old girl against Donald Trump. Now the girl is 55 years old, and these allegations have come to light because of the release of the Epstein files, and there was a missing 53 pages within the Epstein files that had the then 13-year-old girl's allegations. Now, she had 4 separate interviews with the FBI, and the second, third, and fourth interviews mentioned Donald Trump, made the accusations against Trump and Epstein. The first interview only made an allegation against Epstein. The only one of the 4 interviews that was released when the files were released was the first interview, the one where the then 13-year-old girl made the allegations against Jeffrey Epstein. None of the documents relating to her claims against Donald Trump were released. Second, third, fourth interviews, redacted, and no reason for the redaction, no indication they were redacted. And after the press caught on to it, the Department of Justice now is releasing it. And according to the New York Times, in a statement posted online on Thursday, the Justice Department acknowledged that besides those FBI memos, it had also identified about a dozen other documents that were, quote, incorrectly coded as duplicative, end quote. In addition, federal prosecutors in Florida determined that 5 prosecution memos initially marked as privileged could be released with redactions, the department said. When the files were made public in late January, officials described the trove as including all material sent by the public to the FBI and acknowledged that extended to uncorroborated assertions. Quote, some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election, the department said in a statement at the time, calling such claims unfounded and false. So here's the thing. Under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, you're only allowed to redact or withhold documents under certain rules with certain categories. First, if you're going to do so, you have to create a summary that describes why you're redacting it. And you can only do so based on certain requirements, like, is it a threat to national security? Does it involve an ongoing criminal investigation? Is it duplicative? Of course, you don't have to produce duplicative documents. Also, the Department of Justice is leaning into other privileges that were not stated in the Epstein Files Transparency Act, like the work product privilege and deliberative process privilege. Now, none of the things I mentioned would apply to the 53 pages that were withheld. According to the Justice Department, they said that it was a mistake because they thought that those documents were duplicative and had already been produced. But I'll let you be the judge of what was produced and what was not. But here, they came out and admitted that it was not duplicative and that the documents, obviously because they're now being produced, do not meet any other exception. Not all 53 pages have been released. There are about 37 pages of records still not public. The files do include 16 new pages that cover 3 additional FBI interview summaries with that woman who was then 13 years old who accused Trump of sexual assault. And indeed, the Epstein Files Transparency Act has its loopholes. I mean, the fact that you're allowing an ongoing criminal investigation that can be created on the spot as a pretext to withhold documents, I think is a little too broad. The fact that there's no enforcement mechanism in the law. So if the law is being violated, there's no rule in place that says, okay, now you have to pay a penalty, or we can go immediately to court and get a judge to issue an order. Nope, you got to stand in line, go to file a lawsuit, and then this thing could take a long time. And there's no easy punishment or penalty. And in fact, when the authors of the Epstein Files Transparency Act tried to take a shortcut, which was to sue the Department of Justice by going to a federal judge and saying that, please compel them to release the documents and also order a special master to review it, someone who can be like a gatekeeper, to review the documents to make sure the legitimate documents are being produced and the only redactions are under the specified restrictions in the act. The judge said, no, I'm not the right judge to go to, because the judge they went to is the judge in the Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury files question, the ones where they try to get the grand jury files released. That's a separate matter than the question of whether the 6 million documents that are part of the Epstein Files Transparency Act should be released. So the members of Congress who passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act should have drafted a stronger law, but they wanted bipartisan support. And now we're left with the court of public opinion to urge the production of these documents. It's because of the survivors. It's because of the media. It's because of pressure from so many groups, including Trump's own base, who want to see these documents. That's what led this reversal, this decision to produce the documents, because it's the political pressure, it's the public pressure that is changing the rules of the game. It's not the courts, because the courts have not weighed in yet, because there's no enforcement mechanism in this act. So we'll still keep following it here on Substack. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time.